But the most important part of this is to get the Trump agenda. That part of that needs to be done legislatively. That means the House and the Senate. We need to get it passed as quickly as possible. Now, when you use a process called reconciliation, I won't go into the technical details of it, but there are very strident, archaic rules, especially in the U.S. Senate, that don't necessarily apply to the House and don't in many cases, that basic fundamental rules have to be followed for it to not. It's one of the few areas where the Senate, one of the few procedures available to them where they can pass a bill with a simple majority, but it has to do with the budget, has to do with financing, and often you get the guidance of somebody called the Senate parliamentarian in terms of what you can and what you cannot do. Now, the budget chairman for the U.S. Senate right now, the committee chairman, is Senator Lindsey Graham. And Senator Lindsey Graham believes as budget chair, and there's precedence for this, does not need the permission of the Senate parliamentarian to advance the Trump economic agenda. And he'll explain why as he joins us. Senator, welcome back to the program. How are you?
That's pretty darn good. They said
that's pretty good for a non-Washingtonian, non-swampy person, huh?
Yeah, so let's build on what you just said.
Well, first let me say one thing before you get going. When you're right, like you were with Justice Kavanaugh, what you sold this to all of your Republican colleagues, and you figured this out, and you got the wink and the nod from Senator Thune, Majority Leader Thune. I don't think people around the country know how profound this is, because it would be difficult, if not impossible, to accomplish what you're about to accomplish if you didn't figure this out. So props to you.
Well, thank you. And Senator Thune has been a great leader, and we work together. And so here's what's at stake. Normally speaking, nothing passes the Senate without 60 votes. Sometimes we like that because we stop, H.R. 1 that would, do away with, ID at voting, and it would be ballot harvesting. Sometimes we like it, sometimes we don't. But there is a rare occasion, and you explained it well, where the Senate can abandon the 60-vote rule. And here's what's required. You have to have the House, you have to have the Senate, and the White House. That's happened 4 times for Republicans in the last 100 years. So this doesn't happen much. If you have all 3, you can do a budget process called reconciliation, where you can change the numbers on taxes and spending based on a majority vote. The question is, before the Senate, can we make the tax cuts permanent by the budget chairman declaring current policy, which means we extend the tax cuts in perpetuity. They don't expire after 10 years. I have determined that I have the authority to use a baseline of current policy regarding the 2017 tax cuts that expire in December. What does it mean? It means that from here on out, the Senate budget chairman, Republican I'm sure, can make every tax cut permanent, and we don't have to let them expire after 10 years. If my colleagues will back me up, that's the best and the only way to make the Trump tax cuts permanent. I am going to make that decision this afternoon. I think I'm on sound ground. Democrats are going crazy. The 1974 Budget Act allows you to spend using current policy, but it's always been unsure about cutting taxes. They want you to pay for tax cuts, but they don't care if you offset spending. I believe tax cuts add revenue. They don't cost anything. I made the decision, and if I can get 50 plus 1 votes, it will be the new policy of the Senate, and I'm damn proud of it.
I think it's a brilliant maneuver. Let's go through some of the historical precedent that led up to this, because you pointed out, rightly so, that Democrats have used this 4 times against Republicans so they can scream bloody murder all they want. I think the most recent example, if I'm not mistaken, refresh my memory, was when Obama was president, wasn't it, for Obamacare?
Yeah, they basically used reconciliation for Obamacare, the Inflation Reduction Act, and they basically changed the rules to meet the desire of the budget chairman to spend money What I am doing is trying to use the same budget concept to extend tax cuts. Democrats want you to have to pay for tax cuts when they expire. They say they run up the deficit by using.
Well, by the way, that's a crock. Because when Reagan cut taxes, and at the time it was the largest tax cut in history from 70 to 28%, and revenues over 8 years doubled from $500 billion over $1 trillion, except Congress spent $1.25 for every new dollar brought in. So they're lying.
I hope people listen to your show. That's right. CBO says they add to the deficit. I disagree. I'm the budget chairman, not CBO. The statute was written referring to the budget committee, and I'm the chairman. This is not an unelected bureaucrat decision to make. I appreciate people at CBO. This is my decision to make as budget chairman, and I'm going to determine today, if people will back me up, that current policy will apply to tax cuts, not just spending, and that means they will become permanent, which will help the economy. This budget resolution also will allow $175 billion to be spent to get more detention beds, finish the wall, and hire more ICE agents. It will allow $150 billion of additional spending to help the military at a time of great threat without one Democratic vote being required.
Okay, so let's go over everything that you think you can accomplish. Can you add to this no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, as well as making the tax cuts permanent?
Okay, let's go down a checklist. What does this do? The House bill does not make the tax cuts permanent. They expire from 6 to 8 years, depending who you talk to. I understand Mike Johnson did a great job trying to get the bill through. President Trump wants them to be permanent. If I win the day on current policy, they become permanent. They're no longer scored as if they expire. So that's one. I increased the amount you can cut taxes by $1.5 trillion. So that means we can not only make the 2017 tax cuts permanent, we can also cut taxes $1.5 trillion more, tax on tips, overtime, Social Security fits in that. The Senate resolution allows more tax cutting. It makes the tax cuts permanent. It gives money, $175 billion to finish the border. That's all they need for 4 years. More money for defense, and it sets in motion cutting up to $2 trillion, even more. Now, some House members, great people, but in the budget resolution, because of the rules that you described, if I pick a number as to spending cuts and we're $1 short, it loses the privilege and is subject to 60 votes. So what we did in 2017 is to say we told all committees find at least $1 billion in cuts. We're going to cut trillions, not $4 billion. But if we don't get the numbers right, we lose the privilege. This is exactly what we did in 2017. President Trump would not sign a bill that did not cut trillions of dollars. I won't vote for a bill that doesn't cut trillions of dollars. But you can't get started unless you pass what I'm doing today. So I expect tonight that we'll pass the budget resolution where I determine that the tax cuts will not expire, they'll be permanent. And once that's passed, we get on to actually cutting spending and cutting taxes in the reconciliation bill.
I mean, look, it is complicated. It's the way Washington is designed. You're not even using a loophole. You're using a strategy that has been used by Democrats for a long time. And do you anticipate any problems either with House Republicans or with any Senate Republicans in terms of going along with what the American people clearly voted for in November?
So we met with President Trump yesterday, the entire Budget Committee and Leader Thune. He likes what we're doing. What we're doing is we're setting in motion a process that will allow the tax cuts, as I said, to become permanent, not expire after 6, 8, or 10 years. That's a big deal for the economy. We're setting in motion cutting spending. We'll cut as much spending as we can until we run out of votes. We'll need 50 votes in the Senate, 218 votes. There'll be a process to cut as much as you can. Ron Johnson will be in charge of that. If the Senate doesn't pass this resolution, then President Trump's economic agenda, funding the border, helping the military, cutting spending, fails.
It dies on the vine. It's over.
It dies, and we will lose We've had the House, the Senate, and the White House 4 times in 100 years. This does not happen much. This is why I've been so aggressive using this moment.
Well, I'm glad you're doing it. I mean, this is key. Now, let me move on to some other topics because energy dominance is very important. The president also signed. I can't even keep up or count how many executive actions and orders that he signed. Would it not be wise for the House and Senate to come up with a schedule to codify all of these executive actions and orders into law? And at any point, are you dealing with energy in this process?
Okay, reconciliation actually deals with energy. The RAINS Act basically deregulates the energy economy. Under reconciliation, you can't make policy. They tried to do DACA. They tried to increase the minimum wage, and the parliamentarians said no. But we do have a provision that will help deregulate the country, but it is not full-blown. So take the executive orders, codify them in the House, and see if we can get them through the Senate with 60 votes. Some we may get through because they're so popular. But I've looked at all the executive orders, Sean, and I've tried to find as much as I could in that group to put in reconciliation, just needing a majority vote. So I want everybody out there to know I've been looking at every way I can to codify President Trump's agenda.
You know, I know that there are people that sometimes have been critical over maybe some of your foreign policy positions, although you are fully supporting the president's plan for negotiated settlement in Ukraine and in the Middle East.
In the war.
But I will tell you, when you dig your teeth into something and you're dead on right, this will literally be the escape hatch to save the Trump economic agenda, which we need to save the country. So
I don't do anything. I think I helped a lot with Kavanaugh. To help with Amy Coney Barrett. But I think personally it's probably the most important thing I've done yet. As budget chairman, you know, God, I don't know how this works, mysterious ways, but I'm in the right spot at the right time. Talked to President Trump last night. He's fully on board.
Let me ask this question. Do you expect any pushback either in the House or Senate? They've got to recognize that this is an opportunity that does not come along but 4 times in 100 years, as you pointed out.
Well, I'm hoping that people like you can help us get the votes we need. I think we're in pretty good shape. Leader Thune has been working hard. The president's been on the phone. But tonight we vote tonight. If we pass, if
you did a quick whipping of the votes right now, do you think you have the votes to pass this?
I think I've got the votes to start the process with a motion to proceed. Final passage would be over the weekend. I'm going to call you. I'll be on your show tonight.
Well, if we need to start giving out phone numbers for the House and Senate and people to call their congressmen, in this case, the Senate, to get it passed in the Senate first, just let us know and people will call because this is too important.
This is, we're not going to get one Democratic vote to cut spending. We're not getting Democratic votes to make President Trump's.
Well, maybe Fetterman. Have you contacted him?
Yeah, well, you won't get 60. So we're not going to get 60 votes to secure the border, and you're not going to get 60 votes to give more money to the military without increasing social spending. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity and one move to fully fund the border for 4 years, never having to ask for another dollar, to increase military spending, make the tax cuts permanent, and cut trillions of dollars of wasteful spending without one Democratic vote. It all begins tonight.
All right, we'll have you on tonight. We got to stay on top of this. This is the moment. Only 4 times in 100 years have we had an opportunity like this. Senator Graham, thank you. Very important. We'll probably be giving out phone numbers tomorrow on the program.